And I just wanted to run through a few slides before we get into the detail of the next steps. And this is really to orientate everybody so we're all on the same page. If you have any questions as we go through, can you put them into chat? I obviously can't see anything because I'm in presentation mode, and we can have a look at those, or if somebody can flag them to me as we go through. We have been on a journey really since around September time, when the DLT, which is our global leadership team, have been looking at how we align the Secretariat to the new strategic framework. And we have not been able to share much about that until the strategic framework was signed off by the General Assembly, which is our overall governing body. Since then, we have given a debrief and talked about the plans with all colleagues, which took place in December. And then the plan now is that we go into consultation on the Secretariat restructuring proposals from January to February, with implementation then happening between March to April. So this is a very high-level roadmap. The strategic framework looks at the period from 2023 to 2028 and is quite transformative in its approach and how we are going to be looking at the work that we do. There is more detail on that, and I can share. It's a very interesting, vibrant document that will be an easy read, and we'll get that to you so you understand the context in which this change is happening. The DLT identified 6 principles for change, and this is to reflect and recognise the new capabilities that we need to develop to deliver the Secretariat, the strategic framework. The first being that we will transform our approach to what we call our member association facing activities. And again, there's a lot more detail around this, so I'm just going to give you a kind of a flavour of what we're looking at now, and we can arrange a second briefing to go into more detail to the extent that that's useful. We will strengthen our external facing focus, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. That we are going to increase the efficiency of our internal facing activities, that we are going to leverage a unified Secretariat to support localisation and power shifting. And this is a really, really, really important part of what we're looking at. Khadija talked about the last change that took place, which was about trying to move the Secretariat to a more unified structure. It worked to some extent, but not in others. And this time we are moving to a very consistent model, a very consistent design, as we strive to make sure that we do more the same, and we can work therefore more globally than have different structures and different ways of doing things in each of our regions. Through this process, we are also shifting a lot more of our activities into the regions rather than having them line managed or owned by a central office. Through the change, we also want to embody the change we want to see, and this is very much as a diverse, anti-racist and youth-centred organisation. And that's something we're looking to facilitate through the changes that we are making. And the aim is that we are not looking to reduce our costs overall. We are looking to recut our costs. So we will have a cost target of 30%, which is agreed by the Board of Trustees. But how we want to spend that money is partly in resourcing, and partly in development, and partly in engaging more with our member associations. So we're looking at how we cut our total costs and apply them or deploy them differently to how we have in the past. The new Secretariat model, and for those of you who have seen the structures, so the designs that are planned in each of the regions, this should seem familiar, is that we have a new focus and new capabilities. We are a member association and the Secretariat is there to support members, but in our current structure, nowhere do you see a role or a function or a team that is talking about MA support and growth. We talk about programs, we talk about external relations, we talk about our own technical capability. But what you don't see is you don't see us talk about the membership and how we support and develop them. So this is quite a big change. And in that change, we have created new roles to allow us to be able to build a better understanding of our member associations, to be able to link and connect them in new and exciting ways, and to be able to support them very differently. We are also looking at how we position ourselves in terms of the external context. And here again, we are looking very, very differently at the way we operate. We are looking at how we create community networks, both at a regional and a global level, how we leverage disruptive partnerships in what is quite a challenging external environment, and how we better understand and combat our opposition. So this is about being far more proactive and dynamic in how we engage with our external environment. You will see here we also have youth very much at the centre, and you will have already seen, some of you, some of the conversations that we've had about how we build youth engagement, how we can attract and develop youth, and how we make sure that we're leveraging this across the Secretariat and into the Federation. Another key change is in our internal facing functions, so that's finance, procurement, admin and technology, people, organisation, culture and safeguarding, and risk assurance and contracts will now be vertically integrated. So currently they are managed within each of the regions with a sort of a global expert model. And what we are doing is changing that to have vertical reporting of these functions globally. And then we have a small team who are going to be supporting on the ground, but we are looking to hub a lot of our finance, procurement and technology support. So this is a really big change for the Secretariat. In terms of the way that the change is going to be led and supported, the change process will be led by regional directors and division directors. It's really important that that leadership sits with them. And then, as you are aware, we have engaged you to support each of the directors and to work as part of this, a global HR change team, to ensure consistency in our approach, in our implementation, and in our delivery. You will also be aware that we have engaged jurisdictional advice from local law firms to make sure that we're getting the right advice as we need it. And also we'll be looking for you to work in conjunction with your local HR colleagues who are available. They don't exist in every region, but we do have a couple who will also then help deliver the change. In terms of the timelines, again, quite high level, but we're looking to share the proposed restructure and changes at a town hall meeting on the 18th of January, followed by group meetings in the following 2 days to make sure that teams in each of the areas are briefed, followed by one-to-one meetings so that individuals understand the implications for them and their roles, and also have a chance to raise questions and to present feedback and also options. We will be looking to conclude that consultation period by around the 18th of February, so a month of consultation, and then we will consolidate all the feedback, consider the outcomes, and come back and confirm the next steps. The aim then is where we have any internal recruitment processes that need to be undertaken for those to be concluded, take place and concluded by the end of March, so that we can then make the transition to the new structure in April. In terms of our approach to change, we will be welcoming questions and feedback. The important thing for us is to make sure that we have the strongest structure in place to deliver the strategic framework. So that is really, really important. So, you know, we see questions and challenge as a positive thing for us to be able to test and validate that what we are proposing will work, and that, you know, we recognise that people are likely to have more insights on how some of these things work on the ground that we may have missed. So it's really important that we gather that feedback. We also want to make sure that we confirm people in post as quickly as possible to minimise uncertainty. So we are looking, as you will have already seen, to have a mapping process where we can say that the proposals have no effect on an individual, that we can say we expect that there would be no change to their role. For others, there might be a small change, might be a change of reporting, might be a change of title. And so we'd see that as a tweak. It doesn't fundamentally change their role. And then we can focus our efforts where there are more significant changes that may put a role at risk of redundancy, or where we may need to pool people because we have more people doing the work than we have roles available. Obviously, we would be looking for internal recruitment to happen first. However, part of this change is also making sure that we have the right skills and capabilities in place. And so although we would obviously look to have as much mapping across as possible, we we also need to make sure that where we require new skills that don't exist within the Secretariat, that we look outside for those and bring those new skills in. We want to be transparent about the process, and we also want to make sure that we are fair and that we are robust and objective in the way that we approach this. We are very aware that there will be perceptions by some of our colleagues that favourites will be chosen, that this may be an opportunity for people to be removed from the structure or the organisation. And we want to be very open and honest and clear and fair about the processes that we are following and we are taking, and for them to be defendable as we go through. One of the big changes is that when we're looking at roles in the past, people in jobs that have had restricted funding have always been sort of almost been excluded from the process. And what we're doing at the moment is we are looking at both restricted and unrestricted roles together. And this is a really important piece and something that will be different in each of your regions, but something that it's important that you understand, and Hitesh can help you understand that in terms of the financial implications. So please, if that's something that you're not aware of or need more information about, Hitesh can explain it. So book in a slot with him. We obviously commit to treating colleagues humanely and with respect through this process. We are very, very aware that this has the potential to impact individual livelihoods, family livelihoods, and we want to be as respectful as we go through this process and as fair as we possibly can be, and keeping colleagues updated as well through the process. In terms of your role, and I thought it was worth just covering this, I know you've had a brief, but I just thought pulling out some of the key points from my perspective might be helpful. That in terms of you, it's really important that you are proactively working with your regional director to help them. Most of them do not have a lot of change experience. They have worked with the people, their teams for a long while and are very close to them. And some of them may have worked with their teams or individuals in their teams in other organisations and encouraged them to move to IPPF. And so there will be very close connections, and this will be a very, very difficult process for them. Both culturally, emotionally, and professionally, and having you there to help guide them, coach them, help them make objective and evidence-based decisions will be really, really important. Another part of your role is obviously making sure that all the paperwork and documentation is produced on time and is in line with legislation. We will talk about template letters. We are very aware that it's not everything will be the same everywhere in the way it's implemented, because local employment law needs to be taken into consideration. And we need to make sure that we are having open conversations with you where you feel there need to be variations so that we understand them. We also need your help, and I think I've already spoken with some of you that you will need to be in probably all the consultation meetings to ensure that the consultation processes and meetings are conducted in a safe environment, that people are able to ask questions, provide feedback, and suggest options. And I'm very conscious that in some of our regions, culturally, that may be something that people feel less able to do, and you will be an important point of contact to allow people to raise any questions or concerns with you directly, to be that support and to be able to facilitate and navigate that process and support your regional director in being able to do that too. Another part of your role is making sure that we stay true to our design principles and work to the goals of the Secretariat. In the previous restructure, it was very much looked at region by region. Regional directors have been very used to designing their own structures. This is quite a change. We are moving to a model which is consistent across the Secretariat to allow people to understand how to work across, to know who to speak with, and to make sure that the way we operate is clear and able to be navigated by our member associations too. They find us very confusing to deal with. I'm also going to ask you to raise any issues quickly and work collaboratively with me and the rest of the team. We are a team, we are here, and I'm sure that we'll have plenty of opportunities to learn from each other as we go through this process. So one final point is we do have an email address where colleagues can raise questions. It's called transformation@IPPF. And we are also, and Ollie is setting up a SharePoint so that we can, people can raise questions anonymously. And I think that's in the final stages of being set up.